Today in the Best of, the Wing Luke Museum is celebrating 100 years of Wing Luke's legacy, honoring his pivotal role in fair housing, indigenous fishing rights, and cultural preservation.
Yeah, they're also launching a new exhibit. It's called 10,000 Things, curated by former Seattle Civic poet Shin Yee Pai, exploring the personal stories behind everyday family artifacts. Shin Yee, thanks so much for joining us today on ARC Seattle. This is very exciting.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Of course. So you've curated the 10,000 Things exhibit, which explores the powerful stories behind everyday family artifacts. It's based off of a podcast you launched 3 years ago. Can you talk about how your podcast and the exhibit differ?
Yeah, so the podcast started in 2022 with KUNS and is a project that's related to telling Asian American stories, often from artists and activists in the community, with the idea that there are many different ways to be Asian in the world and to just really elevate stories about Asian Americans in the media that aren't usually heard. And then the exhibition at the Wing Luke Museum curates some objects from the podcast itself and some of the storytellers, but then also sources objects from the Wing Luke's collections itself, as well as from the community through a community advisory group that met with me to help identify stories and objects in the community that could be of interest in terms of telling stories about personal, cultural values, as well as the historical moments that produce these objects.
And we were showing some of the photos of what people will see with the exhibit. Talk to us a bit more about that. What exactly will they see, and what do you hope that visitors take away from seeing that exhibit?
Yeah, they'll see different kinds of objects made by artists like Anita Ali, who made a performance called The Red Chador, as well as vitrified glass orbs by glass artist Etsuko Ichikawa, cop cloth by Stuart Wong. But they'll also encounter heirloom family objects, as well as found objects that have sometimes been repurposed into musical objects. And so it's a way to look at objects in a different way, to think about what we keep, why we keep it, and what our personal relationships or connections might be to these objects.
I like that, exploring the personal connection. So why does that matter? Why would you say that storytelling and for people to dive into their own personal artifacts is an important thing?
Well, you know, we keep so much stuff and we don't always think about what our relationship is to all this material. And for people who may immigrate and come from places that are far away, they may not come with any heirlooms and things that are traditionally given to, you know, family members, like items of furniture or dishes, or the things that we traditionally think about heirlooms as kind of newcomers to this country. And so it is this idea of thinking more intentionally about what are these vessels of meaning that we receive from people who may be important to us, that transmit memory, knowledge, and love.
I'm curious if, as you've been putting this exhibit together, you know, have you kind of gone through that process yourself in some of the artifacts in your own family, and what has that process been like, and what did you find?
I have had to do some sorting of my objects, yes. Last year I actually sold my literary papers to a university on the East Coast, and through that process I had to really figure out what I was ready to let go of now versus the things that I really want to keep. And many of the things that I kept are items of artwork, actually, that have been given to me by friends or family, things that were made by people who are close to me, and yeah, just more things that carry in some ways like the energy of people who I have loved who maybe aren't with me anymore.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that you were able to give that to those that university. And thank you for sharing this. This is just fantastic. Yeah. We understand that you're also launching the 4th season of 10,000 Things podcast soon. Can you tell us about what you have in store?
Yes, it's launching on May 20th, and I'm now making it independently with Wonder Media Network, which is a part of ACAST. And so we're working on a new season that'll launch during Asian American Heritage Month, and some of the guests that we're excited about include Amy Tan and the punk rock girl band, the Linda Lindas. And we'll also have some great stories from local storytellers like Susan Liu, the writer and performer.
Shin Yee, thanks so much for joining us this morning. It's been a treat to chat with you. Congratulations on the exhibit and the launch of the podcast and its 4th season.